Hello everybody. So in this video today, we're going to do a tier list for the Streets of Rogue items. I've seen a lot of people request an items tier list for Streets of Rogue, and it seems like there's something that people need to know when they're starting out the game. So today we're going to go through all of the base items in the game. This list is not going to include items that are found, exclusive to a character, and it's not going to include DLC items either. So it's just going to be items that you can find as any character in any run. So just the base items of the game that you find or get as rewards for missions in the levels. And so we're gonna be ranking them on this tier list. And S, to start off with, S is like you definitely need to use it and keep it, and even clone it or buy it if you see it or if you find it. A is like really good, like you definitely want to have it, but it's not the absolute best. It's just a tier below S. B is like, it's pretty good, but overall it's kind of mediocre. It's not amazing. It's not bad either. It's good to have, but um, you could sell it or use it. I could go either way. C is like kind of below average, not terrible, um, decent to have, but I'd probably look to get rid of it or just drop it or sell it or something. D is like bad or just kind of useless, not really worth having. You're better off with just something else. It's not good at all. F is like no reason to ever have it. Just get rid of it. Just sell it. Literally, like pretty much no purpose to having this item. So let's start off with the accuracy mod. So the accuracy mod can be applied to I think most weapons or pretty much all weapons, and it does its job, right? Like it's good. But here's the thing, I don't really think it's like a deal breaker kind of item. It doesn't really win you runs. It doesn't really lose you runs. It kind of just does its job as advertised. It just makes your guns more accurate. But the thing is, typically you don't need your guns to be super accurate because usually most gunfights in Streets of Rogue are going to be up close gunfights, right? So you're not really needing super long range accuracy, and also your accuracy will increase as your firearms trait goes up. So this is not really like an incredible item. It's good to have, but I think I'm gonna throw it in B tier. Most of the gun mods aren't gonna be super incredible. They just kind of do their job, but they're kind of just mediocre. So next, I think this is the ammo processor or the FUD processor. Let me take a look real quick. So I think it's the ammo processor. Yeah, this is the ammo processor. So this will turn items into ammo. And here's the thing, I think it's good. I think this is also going to be another B tier item just because I think ammo is something that is pretty readily available. You find it dropped by a lot of characters when you kill them. A lot of NPCs drop ammo. A lot of NPCs have guns and you can kill them. There's also other items that you can have like a kill immunizer where you could just buy them, at an ammo refill station. So this thing's not amazing to have. I usually just sell it when I get it. I usually don't find it to be super worth it, but it's not awful. It's not one of the worst items in the game. I'm gonna throw it in C tier, I guess. I think that's a fair spot to put it. Next is the ammo stealer. This is going to be a straight S tier. This item is amazing. It will steal the ammo from any NPC that has a gun, and this is really amazing because it basically makes most fights free. If you have this item, you can just steal ammo, and then the NPC won't have any ammo to fight back, and you can just basically get a free kill with it. It's also really good against the killer robot crisis disaster floor because it just takes away their rockets and they can't really kill you. So, and that's like one of the hardest disasters to have in a floor. So, I think this is an easy S tier. Pretty much always use it. It's an amazing item. There's pretty much like I don't think there's really much of a discussion for this to be below even A tier. I think would be kind of low, but I think this can be an easy S tier. Next is the ammo mod. Just increases the ammo in your guns. I'm gonna put this in A tier, a little bit above. I'm gonna put it above the accuracy mod. I don't think it's on the same tier as the accuracy mod, just because ammo is such a good resource to have in this game that it's really I think of all the mods, this is probably the best one to have. just because of how much ammo you're going to be burning through for most characters. And even if you're not using a ton of ammo, you still want to have ammo as a resource, and the more of it you can have, the better. The more situations you can get out of with more ammo. So I think this is a good A tier. It's not S, but I think it's probably one of the better items in the game, one of the best. So next is the antidote. This will just remove status effects. I think this is a really good item because I think in Streets of Rogue, usually negative status effects have more of an impact in your gameplay than positive ones do. So I think it's worse to get, let's say, like a dizzy attribute than it is to get like an invincible one. I don't know, maybe that's a hot take, but I think that it's worse. It has more of a negative impact in your gameplay to get a negative status effect than a positive status effect has on improving your gameplay. So this can really get you out of a pinch if you need it. However, I think this item is a little bit rare, and most status effects you can kind of deal with in other ways by like spamming health items, or there's other ways to mitigate them. And this also doesn't really do much for positive status effects because you want to keep those. So I think overall this is like not an amazing item. I don't really go out of my way to use it or buy it. I'm gonna put it in C tier. It can save you every now and then, but most of the time it won't. It'll just take up an inventory slot, and I usually just end up selling it. So next up is the armor spray. I think yeah, this is the armor spray, not the melee spray. Let me take a look here. Yeah, this is the armor spray. So they basically just increase the armor, the health that your armor has from 100 to 200, which is really good. But overall, I find that you tend to kind of burn through armor pretty quickly in this game just because of the damage you take. And even if you're not taking a lot of damage, even if you're doing like kind of like a more election-oriented character like the bartender, the comedian, you still don't really need this because you're not taking that much damage. So if you aren't taking damage, this item isn't really worth it. But if you are, you're just gonna end up burning through armor really quickly anyway. So it kind of doesn't really help you either way. But it's still not useless. It still does the job. I'm gonna also throw this in C tier. It's not incredible. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. That's where it belongs. So next up is the axe. For the axe, I'm sort of leaning towards an almost an S or an A. I think I'm gonna put it in A tier. So here's why. I think it's probably the best melee item in the game. And I say that because even though technically the sledgehammer does the most damage in the game, the sledgehammer is very rare. And it can also knock through building through certain walls as well. So you kind of want to preserve it for high value targets or walls. And the axe is the second best in the game, but it's much more abundant. The cannibals have them, the slave masters drop them. They're just much more common to have. They do, I think, the second most amount of damage in the game, so they're really really good to have. And I think most damage oriented characters are gonna have a melee stat that you can use this with. I'm gonna move it up to an S actually. I think this is an S tier item. I think it's probably the best melee item in the game, even if it's not on technically on paper the best. But it's just because of the rarity. I think it bumps it up above the sledgehammer. And I think like this is the melee item I always prioritize if I have multiple and I have to drop one or sell one. I always keep the axe. It's just an incredible item. Okay, so next up, the banana peel. So we have the banana and the banana peel. So the banana peel by itself, without the banana, I don't really find this item to be that useful. I know a lot of people hold on to this and use it. It'll kind of trip NPCs and kind of give you time if you need to escape. But generally, I don't really find it that useful because when you're running, usually you can just outrun NPCs. It's usually not a big deal. Outrunning NPCs is not really a problem in this game. Maybe if you have some kind of if you have the slow debuff, or if you just have a really slow character, it could help a little bit. But they also doesn't trip them for very long. It only trips them for like maybe a second or so, and it doesn't really do much damage either. And usually they end up just clogging up inventory space that you could use for something else. So I don't really think that this item is really useful. I'm gonna put it in D tier. I don't like it can function and it can do what it advertises. It's just I don't really think it's worth having. I just say just drop them. So the banana is of course a healing item. I think pretty much all healing items in this game are probably going to be on the upper half of the list. And really just because in this game you're going to be burning through a lot of health. even if you're playing as more of a even if you're playing as more of a peaceful oriented character or like an election oriented character, you're still going to need health items. There's just really no way around it. You're going to take damage in this game. And so banana, I think it heals 10 health. They're pretty abundant. You can find them. The scientists have them in a lot of their fridges. You can find them in trash cans. They're overall pretty good. However, they don't really heal that much. But I think just because of their abundance, I'm gonna put them in B tier. You know, they at the end of the day, they are a healing item. They are better than some of these items, so I think I'm gonna throw them there. Next up, we have the bat. So I think the melee weapons are also gonna fall in kind of a similar category as a lot of the food items, in that they're so good and so abundant that you kind of are always gonna end up using them. So they're always gonna be in the upper half of the list. However, the baseball bat is, I think, one of the worst, or probably the second worst melee weapon besides the fists. So I think this is overall going to be. I'm going to throw it into B tier just because you end up using it really early in the game, and it's a good fallback item. They're very common, um, and they're better than the fists, obviously. And you're just going to be using them a lot. I think I'm really going to be valuing a lot of times like just how often you use items in this game, not just purely how good they are objectively, but just how common they are, how much you're going to be using them. The baseball bat's pretty common, even though it's not um, an amazing item. So next up is the bear trap, which I think is a little bit more rare. They're definitely a pain in the ass in the park levels, and they give you the slow debuff and they do a little bit of damage. But overall, they're not incredible. They kind of fall into this like banana peel kind of category where it slows the enemy and does some damage. But overall, they're not really that amazing. I don't really keep these. I'm gonna throw them in C tier. I don't think they're really that good. I don't think they're really worth having. I think you're better off selling them, or just using them really quickly. All right, so next we got the beer. So here's the thing with the beer. Even though it's one of the weaker healing items in the game, I'm gonna put it in A tier, and I'll tell you why. So one, they're extremely common. You find them in trash cans. You can buy them from bartenders for super cheap. And usually, if you just don't use them for most of the game, you end up just stockpiling a ton of beer. And they're really good as a spam healing item. They do 10 health, which is decent. It's not amazing, but it's decent. And you can also use them to bribe bouncers in the later levels, like in the downtown and the uptown levels. They're really good for that reason. So they have some utility beyond healing, and they're also just extremely common. So for most characters, stocking beers is one of the best things you can do, just to have like a reserve of health or just supplement your other healing items. So I think they're an easy A tier, even though they only heal 10 health. There's more to them than just healing 10 health. So this next one is the blindinizer, I think it's called. It basically just makes everyone blind in like an area around you. So this is really helpful if you're in an area, like let's say there's a really large density of cops somewhere and you need to like you know, put an item into an air vent, or you need to like use a lockpick or something. Um, or even some characters like the thief, I guess you could pickpocket easier. But overall, I don't really find that this item's that useful. I don't really use it just because I think there's other ways to reduce visibility or just having better game sense and having better positioning. But that doesn't mean this item's bad. It still does its job. I'm sort of split between B and C tier. These things aren't super common either. I'm gonna throw it in C tier just because I think it's out. I think not that it's outclassed. I think there's just many options for reducing visibility and just doing things in a more intelligent way that stops you from getting caught in the first place. Um, but they're not bad though. There's sort of like a high C or a low B. Um, I don't know. I can always come back to this, but I think C is probably a good spot for this right now. So next is the blood bag. I think this item's kind of trash. Here's the deal. There's so many healing items in this game. You know, you got the beer banana, you got the cheeseburger, you got the ham sandwich, the FUD, even just doctors in general or leveling up. I don't really think that healing is a super big deal. I like you pretty much never need to use the blood bags. You can stockpile blood bags if you're about to level up or you're about to heal. So you can have, like a reserve of health. But still, there's just so many, like, you just almost never need to use this. I'm gonna put in F tier. I think it's gonna be our first F tier. So a character like the vampire does need this because they have the Jugularis traits that they can only use blood to heal. But that's only one character out of the entire game, and for pretty much every other character, you can just use, you know, normal healing items. I guess the cannibal too could fall into this category, but overall, you just pretty much never need to use this item. It's just kind of a waste of time. I just stick to the other healing items. There's just way better ways you can heal than using this. So next is the body swapper. This item's really good, I think. It's a little bit rare, but you can get into some good positions with this. You can really infiltrate some buildings. I'm a bit torn between A and B here. I'm gonna put in A tier. I think this item is really good if you can use it smartly, because you can bypass a lot of security with this. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. I don't really have much more to say on this other than just if you can use this in a smart way, you can really complete things a lot quicker. So the boombox, I'm gonna throw this item in D tier. I think this item's pretty bad. It's just this doesn't really help you do anything. It just kind of makes the NPCs dance around for a little bit. But that doesn't really help you do anything. Like it'll draw NPCs, but if you need to neutralize someone, they're still gonna end up fighting back or killing you. All you really do is just kind of just group NPCs together, which there's other ways to do that. You could put something in an air vent, or just generally just attack them one by one. Like I don't really find that grouping enemies together accomplishes much, and it doesn't really stop NPCs from being hostile in the first place. So this item I think it's just kind of bad. I think you're better off just selling this than using it. I think there's other ways to neutralize or to distract NPCs if you have to. All right, so next is the Boo Urn. This I think will just scare NPCs out of buildings if you use it. And this kind of falls into the same category of of the boombox, where it's like, sure you can use this, but again, like what's really the point? Like, what do you really accomplish by using this? That like you usually don't want NPCs to group up, and even leaving a building, there's cigarettes you could put in the vent. There's other items that this case kind of just outclassed by that. Generally, you just don't really need to use this. I'm gonna put it in D tier as well. I think it kind of just falls into the same category as the boombox. You just don't really ever need to use it. So next up is the Bracelet of Strength. I think this item's really good. The problem is like, again, a lot of these consumable wearable items like the armor pieces, the Bracelet of Strength, or just other stuff you use. It'll just break really quickly as you use it. Now, if you're going for a character that is going to use a lot of melee items, it's definitely worth having. But it'll just break really quickly, and you usually do a lot of damage already with melee, especially if you have a high melee skill. But this thing's still pretty good. It's still decent. I still grab it if I could use it. I think I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think that's a fair spot to put it. It definitely helps, but it really doesn't. It's not a game changer really. So this is the bulletproof vest. This I think will just reduce um, damage from bullets, not other types of attack, which is really good because usually you want to soak up a lot of bullet damage if you can, because that's one of the main things that will kill you in this game. And it does fall into the same category of it'll just kind of eat up durability really quickly and break really quickly. But if you're not getting into just pointless gunfights, you should have this for a little while, and it will definitely save you. I think it's also kind of a B tier item. I think it does a similar job, or it has a similar kind of mechanic to the Bracelet of Strength. Like it'll definitely help you out. It won't win you a run or anything, but it's definitely good to grab if you can. All right, next up is the cheeseburger. I'm gonna put this in A tier. This is usually my go-to kind of healing item in the game. They're relatively abundant. They're not super abundant, but some NPCs drop them. You can usually buy them from shops. They're overall good to stockpile. They're not super expensive to clone in the cloning machine, and they heal 20. HP, which is really good. I think this is one of the best healing items in the game in terms of its abundance and its healing and how much it costs. I think it just kind of hits that trifecta really well. I think it's an amazing item. This is probably one of the items you should go towards stockpiling. It's just really good. So next up is the cardboard box. This is an interesting item because it's not it's not bad, but I just don't really feel like you need it. Here's the thing: if you've played this game for a while and you're good at this game, you know how to navigate buildings. You know how to get by, the NPC's line of sight. You know the patterns of this game, and you know to avoid cameras as well. So this doesn't really help you in any way, or it does help. It's just not really worth using a lot of the time. I generally find there's better ways to sneak around. And then there's also other items that outclass it as well. There's like, invisibility syringes, or even just the blends in nicely trait will help you with this. And just there's ways to dodge security cameras. There's ways to dodge. There's ways to just navigate around NPCs. I don't really find this item to be worth it. It's worth having. I usually just sell it. I think I'm gonna stick it in D tier. It's not awful, but you're probably better off just selling it completely. All right, next up is the lighter. I think this is a trash item. It's F. I don't ever use this thing. I don't really see the point in it. It doesn't even sell for much either way. You could light oil on fire with it, but why even bother doing that? There's flamethrower. There's a flamethrower in this game. There's Molotov cocktails. There's other ways to light fires. You don't need this thing. It's just a waste of an inventory slot. Cigarettes are interesting because they're very abundant. You find them in a lot of trash cans, and they also drop from a lot of NPCs. But they're really not good, and I don't really think they're supposed to be a good item. You can stick them in air vents to force NPCs out of buildings, and it'll do a little bit of damage to them. If you're playing the bartender, you can make cocktails with them, which will also do a little bit of damage. But that's really all they're doing at the end of the day. They're just doing a little bit of damage. They're not really gonna like ultimately like win you a fight or win you an objective. They're just kind of there. And I really feel like past like the industrial area, they're just not worth having. I usually just drop them. I don't even sell them. I usually just drop them because they usually just take up an inventory slot. I'm also gonna throw them in D tier. I don't really think these are an item worth using. There's just better. They just don't help you as much. The only reason you really need these is to force NPCs out of air vents, which you can or force NPCs out of buildings with an air vent. But even then, like, how many do you really need to do that? Just maybe like one or two or three stockpiled, or even just use other syringes if you just have random syringes. I just say drop these or sell them. Don't even bother with the inventory slot. Next up is the cocktail. So the cocktail is interesting because you can either buy them from a bartender, or you can make them if you're playing the bartender character. Now, I think if you buy them from a bartender in game, it will just give you a random status effect, which is not really good. But even when you're playing the bartender character, even though you have the drug lug trait and you can choose what to use as cocktails, only a couple of them are really valuable. You're better off making positive cocktails as the bartender and giving them to people so you can neutralize them by asking them to leave, rather than giving them a negative status effect. Really, the only useful negative status effects for cocktails are the cyanide pill and the poison syringe. But again, this only applies if you're playing the bartender. If you're just buying them from a bartender, you're just kind of gambling. There's no real reason to buy this. I'm gonna throw these in D tier as well. Like you're just gambling. You just have no idea what you're gonna get. You could just get a trash status effect. It's just not worth it. They're also kind of expensive too if you buy them from a bartender. I guess because of the bartender character, you could bump this up a tier. But if we're going off of just generic items, we're not focusing purely on one character. I think it's gonna be D tier. If we're talking the bartender as a character, probably be B or C. You can make a case, but generally, I think it's gonna be D tier. It's just not amazing. So this is the cod piece. Let me just check this real quick. I don't remember the exact stats on this. So you just resist damage, basically. Again, really, it's good. I think it'll resist all damage, unlike the bulletproof vest, which is just bullets. It's another armor piece that will probably break pretty quickly, but it'll help you. It'll reduce some damage, which is always good. It's probably B tier. It's probably kind of on par with Bulletproof Vest, just does kind of a similar thing. But again, the armor in this game breaks really quickly, so it's not going to win you a run, but it's useful for while you have it. So next is the cologne, and here's the deal with the cologne. Let me double check this as well, so I just know exactly. So it makes all neutral NPC become friendly to you. So here's the thing. This is really only useful if you're going for an election victory. There's no real reason to have this or to use this besides that. And not to mention that these things are really, really expensive, especially to clone them. And if you're going for an election victory, you're probably gonna have to use this multiple times, on different floors. So that's a lot of money to clone these. And they do raise your electability, but overall, there's other ways to do that. You could, eliminate people who are hostile to you. You could buy them drinks in the bar. You could, free prisoners. There's other ways to raise your electability other than this, really expensive item. And it's also pretty rare too. I don't really think it's just worth using. I mean, if you have it, you might as well use it, especially if you're going for an election victory. But like keeping it and cloning it and counting on it to save you the game is just not good. The vampire does start with this, which can be useful, but again, that's just one character, and we're not going to base this list on just one character. So I guess again, if this was the vampire, maybe C or B, but I think overall it's going to be a D tier item. Like it's not a detriment to your game. It's just not really worth it. It's not worth the money. It's not worth finding it. It's just too rare. I think that's a good spot for it. So next to the helmet, I think the helmet. I think these armor pieces are just going to go all in B tier. Again, it does the same thing. It resists damage. It'll help you a little bit, but it just breaks too quickly. All right, so let's just move on from the armor then. The critter upper is really good. I'm not sure if this affects uh, guns. I think I've only ever really used it for melee, but it is good. It'll increase your crit chance. It'll increase your damage, which is always good. Can't really go wrong with that. I think this is also going to be a B tier item. I again, I don't think it's quite A tier. I don't think I ever really like go out of my way to find this or like I'm never super excited when I have this. Like, yeah, it's useful and I'll use it. It'll help my game, but overall, it's kind of just a mediocre item to me. It's like whatever. Like you generally, if you're playing a damage character, you probably already have pretty good damage stats, and there's other ways to get better damage. So I don't know. I think it's just it is what it is. I think it's B tier. So next is the crowbar. So the crowbar is interesting because it's like the wrench in the way that it has sort of a utility to it, than rather than other melee items. You can like open crates with it. I think you can open doors with it as well. So it has that extra utility, but there's other ways to open doors and open crates in this game. You don't usually need to do it in a stealthy way. Like there's lock picks, and you might not have a lock pick, but if it's a wooden door, you could just break it down. But if you can't do that because it's too loud, then I guess it's useful. I think it's kind of. I think it's also going to be B tier. It's a melee weapon. You can use it as that. It's definitely useful to have. And it'll help you in a pinch every now and then if you don't have a lockpick. But generally, I don't ever really use that ability. I just find it more useful as just a regular melee weapon. But it's a little bit better than. I guess it's a little bit better than the bat. But I'm gonna throw it just generally in the same tier. I don't think it's different enough to justify us a tier above the bat. So I think it's gonna stay in B tier. I think it's a good spot for it. So next up is the cube of lamprey, which I think makes lamps drop like trash can like type items. I'm gonna I'm gonna put this item in F tier. I think it's bad. I don't really see a reason in having this. The trash cans are already so common. Trash can items are already not amazing, and they're already pretty abundant as they are. That you don't really ever need this item. Like I say, just sell it. It's the best thing you can do with this item is just sell it. You don't really need to use this. It's kind of pointless. Just get rid of it. So next up is the cyanide pill, which is an interesting item because by itself in a vacuum, the cyanide pill is really good. It'll basically insta kill anything. If you're playing the bartender character, you can make a cocktail with it, just kill someone instantly. Or you could put it in an air vent and basically just kill all the NPCs in there, right? But The thing is, this item is really rare, and it's really expensive to clone as well. It's kind of like the cologne, where if you're going to clone it, it's really expensive to do that. And so generally, you're only going to have like one of these, and they're so rare already that it's pretty much going to be a one-time use. But it is really good because it's basically an insta kill. So like by its pure utility on its own, it's like an A tier. But I think in terms of its rarity and its cost, it's gonna lower it to a B tier just because of the nature of the item itself. Yeah, I think that's a good spot. Dizzy grenades are they're useful to have. I generally find that just the basic grenades are the best grenades to have, but but they're good. And I think you could also hit yourself with these and make yourself dizzy, so that's something to consider too. But I don't really think that they're worth using. You again, usually if people are chasing you, you can just outrun them. You don't really need to use this if you're going into a building. I think I don't think this will really help you that much unless you're grouping enemies together, which can be kind of difficult. But again, like I don't think these really help you that much. I'm gonna put them in C tier. I think they're a cool concept and they help out every now and then, but overall they're just not. I generally end up selling them. I don't think they're worth it. I don't think they're worth keeping. They will help you though. They're not useless, and there is a spot for them. I think better. I think regular grenades are just better. And the door detonator is also an interesting case because you almost never really need to use this thing. I'm gonna put it in C tier as well. I just feel like you know getting into doors is not really difficult in this game. You can kind of just knock on them and have the NPC open and attack, or you can break down the door. You can lockpick it. Uh, there's just a lot of ways to get through doors in this game that it's not really like an issue. But that doesn't mean they're worthless. They can get you a free kill if you can time it right with placing on the door and then knocking and running away. But generally, I don't find myself cloning these or looking for them or buying them. They're kind of just there. Like I'll use them if I have them, but they're not amazing. And next is the ear warp whistle, which kind of does the same thing as the blindinizer, but just for hearing. And this item is kind of just never really useful. The only time I've ever used this was to arrest the mayor as the cop character, so that the other super cops wouldn't hear. But that's like a very niche scenario. I don't know where else you'd really use this. Generally, sound is not like that big of an issue in this game. You can usually outrun or hide from NPCs or do what you need to do before NPCs see you. And even if they do, like there's a million ways to deal with being getting caught in this game. That you don't generally need this. However, it's not useless either. I'm gonna put it in C tier as well. It does its job, but I don't find myself going out of my way to use it. I think to continue the C tier train, I think I'm also gonna put the Electro Pill in there, just because I think it's worse than the Cyanide Pill because like it can start a massive fight if you put it in like an air vent and then have NPCs touch each other and then they start fighting and it can start a giant fight and it can neutralize someone or all that kind of stuff. But generally, that's kind of a niche scenario. And again, starting these giant fights can also end up getting you killed too if you're not careful. So I generally don't use them, and they're also kind of rare as well. So I think you're better off using them quickly or selling them. But again, it's not useless. Like C tier is one of those lists where like it's not nothing in C tier is like useless or not worth having. It's just like it's either outclassed or it's too niche or you're probably just better off selling it. And so I just that's just kind of how I feel about the Electropill. It can be useful in air vents or the bartender character, but generally you're probably better off just using it right away or dropping it or selling it. So next is the EMP grenade, which okay, I think we're going to continue the C tier train and put this in C tier as well because again, it's not useless, but but usually most things that you're going to deal with that are hostile in this game are not going to be electronics, right? So there's cop bots, there's the Terminator bot, and you can also blow up generators with this. But there's many ways to blow up generators. You can just use a regular grenade, and cop bots don't have that much health anyway. And generally, like you just don't need to be really like using this. I don't know. I just don't. I don't find them that useful. I don't end up ever using like a lot of these items in C tier end up just sitting in my inventory for a while until I end up just selling them or dropping them or just using them just to get rid of them. I feel like EMP grenades are kind of in that same boat. I think it's a good spot to put them. So next up is the explodo device. I actually really love this item. I think it's amazing. And here's why. Because usually it will they're really good for getting into buildings or neutralizing people. Because most of the times the best strategy you can have in Streets of Rogue is just killing things right away or just finding ways to have NPCs die in ways that you don't have to directly fight them. And this does that. This will blow up, like the slot machines or computers or the generators, and a lot of NPCs stand near those. So these can just be like an insta kill. However, I don't think they're that common, and they can also be a bit niche because you can't always like not every NPC you need to kill or not every place you need to get into is going to have an electronic in the right spot. So I think if it was up to me personally, I love this item. I put it in like an A tier, but I think objectively it's gonna be probably more of like a B tier, just because you're not guaranteed to have electronics in the right place that you need them to be in. So next up is the fire extinguisher. This thing's gonna be an F tier. It's pointless. Just sell this. There's no reason to be putting out fires, and yeah, you can push like NPCs back with it, but like that doesn't really matter. Like just pushing NPCs back is never really that useful. It's kind of the same reason why like the leaf blower is not a great item. We'll get to that too, but yeah, you don't need to use the fire extinguisher. It's just pointless. So this is the fireproof vest, I think. Let me just double check that. Yeah, I think it's the fireproof vest. So anyway, we're gonna. I think you don't really need to worry about fire. Like most fire in this game, it's just not like something you have to worry about. Like there's flamethrowers from the cop bots, but you can avoid that. There's fire grates, but you can avoid that. And there's the flamethrowers in the buildings, but you don't have to worry about that either. Like generally, if you're good enough to avoid fire, you won't need this item. But it's not useless. Like it's not kind of like it does its job. I'm gonna put it in D tier just because it's never really needed, but it'll help, I guess, if you have it. They're also kind of rare. They drop from firefighters. So overall, you just never really need this item, or you won't really see it. It's not really that useful, but I think it keeps itself out of F because it just does something kind of useful. So fireworks, next up is fireworks. I'm also gonna throw fireworks in D tier, just because you can't control where the fireworks go off, and you'll end up just breaking a lot of buildings or hitting NPCs and causing things to be hostile that didn't need to be, and like things that just kind of cause chaos, but like in a really like undirected way, just end up creating problems that you didn't need. Like NPCs will become hostile that didn't need to become hostile, or you'll break buildings that you didn't need to break in. This thing like shoots out in like a radius and like a circle, which is just not really that useful. But they're not useless. You can use them, but I think they're a D. I think they're gonna go in D tier. Medkits. Medkits are just too expensive to be worth it, in my opinion. Like most healing items, like I think mostly you want to stock up on healing items that are gonna like they're gonna really kind of like be worth the investment. You want to stock up on things that give really good health to cost ratio, and I just don't feel like the medkit really does that. I think the doctor starts with this item, which can make it a little bit better, but overall, you're probably just better off buying, like beers and cheeseburgers and whiskeys and other stuff and stocking up on stuff from the trash cans. Um, but that being said, it's not useless. It does heal a lot. I just generally use it to get rid of the inventory slot. I'm gonna put it in C tier. It's a little bit more of a niche healing item, but it's still a healing item. I'm kind of debating to put it in B tier, but I think just because the cost of it, it's gonna go in C tier. Yeah, I think that's a good spot to put it. Flamethrower, I'm gonna put the flamethrower in S tier. I love the flamethrower. I think it's an amazing item. First of all, most buildings that are wood, which I think every floor has some wood buildings, you can basically just enter in for free. You just shoot some fire and burn it down. Doors can be burned down really quickly. It also does a ton of damage, like, and it has really good AoE damage too. So if you're getting chased by a mob or there's multiple characters, you can just shoot them with flame, and they'll die really quickly. This thing does a ton of damage. It holds a lot of ammo. It's good for breaking into things. Overall, this is just an incredible item. I love it. I think it's an easy S tier. The four-leaf clover. Let me look up what this item does again, because I'm not 100% sure. Four-leaf clover. So it just kind of increases your chances of doing things like crit and uh, like slot machines and stuff, which is not really super useful. It's kind of just an RNG item. I think they're better off. They're better off being sold. I'm gonna put it in F tier. I think it's just kind of useless. It doesn't really do anything for you. You're better off just like basically everything in F is just sell it or don't even bother picking it up. It's just gonna do basically nothing for you. All right, so the item voucher is interesting because most shops don't really have amazing items. They have decent items, right? Like they might have med kits and cheeseburgers, maybe some guns. But overall, I don't really ever find that like I'm relying on shops, to win me a run. I'm never sitting here like with my fingers crossed, waiting to get to the next store to buy what I need. Generally, stores are like kind of helpful, but 9 times out of 10, I don't end up buying anything from the store. I just don't find stores super useful. So therefore, this item is not super useful because it can only be used in stores. However, it still will get you a free item, and that could definitely help you out. I think it's gonna be a B tier, just because stores are not super useful. It'll get you a free item, but stores themselves don't have great items. Like like usually they don't. So you're probably better off just using it right away or selling it. I don't find them to be that useful. However, they're not bad. Like they definitely have their place in the game. Next up is the freeze ray. This thing's really good. This is also another gun. I think pretty much all the guns are going to be like upper tier, probably B tier and above. I'm going to put the freeze ray in A tier just because of how good it is. You can freeze any character. They can't attack you back while they're frozen, which is really good. It's basically a free escape, or you can basically win a fight. Like it's basically a free win in a fight. Freeze anybody, and then I think you do extra damage to them while they're frozen. Or you could just sneak past them, do what you need to do, and then leave. And the freeze will last for a long time too. And I don't think the ammo to restock it is super expensive either. So this is definitely an A tier. It only holds 10 shots, I think, and so it can run out quickly if you're not careful with it. But I think overall, if you use it smartly, it's definitely an amazing item. I'd say always keep it, always use it if you can. I don't think it's quite S, but it's definitely like high. It's like an A plus or like S minus. I think I'm gonna put it in A tier just for now though. The friend phone is also another really good item. I'm gonna also throw this in A tier. So the mobster starts with this, and that's one of the things that makes the mobster like a really good character, is because of this. And most characters will benefit from having a friend phone, especially if you're a damage character. Now, NPCs are not really great in this game. They're mostly used for like bullet sponges, but that can be like useful on its own, like just being having a bullet sponge. And you know what? I think I'm gonna lower this just to a B tier, just because NPCs are not amazing in this game. But still, having two extra NPCs that are loyal to you on command that you can then just use to soak up damage or just you know throw them as a Hail Mary to try to kill someone, um, is really good. Yeah, I don't think they're quite an A tier just because of how unpredictable NPCs can be. But still, this is still really a really good item. It's good to have. I think it's even worth cloning sometimes if you can, if you have the extra money. Okay, so FUD. This I don't like FUD. I think it's definitely the worst healing item, which is not really much of a surprise. It is fairly abundant, and you can find it in trash cans, but overall, I find that there's there's other healing items that are better and also kind of equally abundant, or sometimes more abundant, like the beer and the banana and stuff like that. You can turn it into hot food in the park, but again, then you have to stock it up and keep it and not really use it for a while. And then even then, it's a scarce resource once you do cook it. I think FUD is going to be, it is still a healing item. I was going to put it in D tier, but I think it is still a healing item. So it is going to go in C tier for that reason. It's kind of on the same tier as the medkit, even though the medkit is way better in terms of healing. Medkit is really good in healing, but really expensive. FUD is really cheap and abundant, but it only heals 5, and you gotta hold on to it to cook it, and I just find it to be more of a hassle than it's worth. It just ends up taking up an inventory slot, end up just kind of spamming it out to eat it, to free up the slot anyway. I think it's good there. Yeah, and next up is also the FUD processor. I think the FUD processor is worse. I think it's D tier. Again, like FUD is not really a great item to begin with, and usually you could sell items, you know, to have money to buy other healing items or just other items you need in general, rather than just turning them into FUD, which is not a great item to begin with. Yeah, I don't think this thing's ever worth it. I think you're better off just selling it and having them and not turning things into FUD. I don't think FUD's a great item at all. Next up is the gas mask, which I think is also kind of a trash item. I'm also going to put it in D tier. Most gas that you find in this game, like if you put something in an air vent or if a building already has gas in it, it's in gas clouds, so you can just avoid them. You don't have to walk into gas in this game. It's very easy to avoid, unless you're just running through the building indiscriminately, which you shouldn't really be doing in the first place. But then I guess it could be useful. It's not an F tier just because it has a use. It will stop you from getting like negative status effects if you're in a building that has gas. But you don't really need to be taking that negative status effect to begin with. It's just kind of unnecessary. So I think it is. Yeah, I think it is D tier. I don't think it's worth having this. Just sell it. You don't really need to be worrying about gas, like gas clouds. Just sell this. Next up is the Ghost Giver. This thing's F tier, easiest F tier. It's complete trash. There's no reason you ever need this. It pretty much just pushes NPCs around. It's not really useful. It will kill ghosts, but ghosts are if you're not breaking gravestones, ghosts aren't really a problem. You don't really need this item. It's just completely useless. Just sell it, or don't even pick it up. It's just pointless. The Giganticizer. I think this is an A tier item. I think this is really good. Now here's the thing. This item is a little bit rare. It's kind of expensive, but it is so unbelievable. Unlike the cyanide pill is really expensive and rare, and its job is a little bit niche, but it's really good. The Giganticizer is really versatile. You can break through walls. You can kill a lot of NPCs. You can do a lot of damage. It's basically, if you have a Giganticizer, it's basically a free way to get the hat from the mayor, or basically a free way to just clear a floor. It's such a good item. It's amazing. Always keep this and always use it if you have it. I don't think it's going to be quite S tier, just because it is kind of rare, and it is a status effect item, so it's not going to last you. These items will always be available for you to use, but this is like a limited use. If it wasn't a status effect item, it'd be easy S tier, but it's not. It is limited in what you can do with it, so it is going to stay A tier. So next up are the grenades. Now, if you've played the soldier character, you know how good the grenades are. They're not, I don't think they're super rare. They're not common either, but they are really good. They can blow open walls, which is amazing. You can, they just do a shit ton of damage if someone's chasing you. Overall, they're really good. I'm also gonna throw these in A tier. I think they just do, they're just a grenade. They do what they're supposed to do. They do a lot of damage. They blow things up, and they're just useful to have. They're useful to clone too. I think this is also one of those items that is like one of the most clonable items in the game. Like one thing that you should like If you have them, you should have like a couple of them spare, like 7 or 8 or 9 of them, just spare, sitting in your inventory, ready to use. Next up, the hacking tool. Now, this might be a bit of a controversial opinion, but I don't really find the hacking tool to be super useful. It definitely has its place in the game, and it's definitely useful, but it's also not like the hacker's laptop. The hacker's laptop is way better. It has like the range of things that you can do once you hack into a computer with the hacker's laptop is way more than the hacking tool. The hacking tool can just like shut off security cameras, um, or like hack into a computer to like open doors. But overall, like you don't really need to be using that. I guess you could hack like a cop bot too, but again, like that could be kind of risky because you can get caught doing that. I think it's a I think hacking tool is B tier. Like I respect it. I respect what it does, but I don't really ever find myself like going out of the way to stockpile these or use them. Like I'll use them if I have them, but I don't love the hacking tool. And maybe that's a hot take, but I don't think it's amazing. I think you're better off just there's other ways to infiltrate buildings that have computers or buildings that have electronics than this. Like it'll help and you should use it if you have it, but I think it's B tier. I don't think it's better than like I don't think it's on the same tier as like these items up here in A tier. Next up is the ham sandwich. The ham sandwich is a decent healing item, but I think it's gonna go in C tier just because there's no way to really get it. There's no way to like make it, or they're not super abundant. I think they're a lot more rare than like beer or bananas. They only heal 10. Um, they're kind of a weak healing item. I know that the werewolf starts with it, but again, this is not a tier list about individual characters. I'm a little bit torn. I feel like maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh on these healing items here, but I generally find like if I'm in a game like Medkit, Ham Sandwich, FUD, like these are almost always the first items to go. Like when I have to heal, like if I'm stockpiling healing items and I'm a little bit low in health, and I just need to top up a little bit. Like these are almost always the first to be used, just because they don't heal that. Like the FUD and Ham Sandwich don't heal that much. Medkit's too expensive, and there's not enough of them to stockpile, so I just get rid of it for the inventory slot. Maybe if the ham sandwich was more abundant, if it was like as abundant as these, it would be bumped up a tier. But again, you also can't really do much with this. Like banana and the beer, like banana, you could trade it with a gorilla to get them to help you. Beer, you could bribe people with. Things like FUD and ham sandwich, their only use is to just really heal you. And it's kind of a weak. It's only heals 10, so I think it's gonna stay in C tier. I think it's a good spot for it. Next up is the hard hat, which I think is kind of just like the soldier's helmet, but kind of just a little bit worse. Let me take a look here. Yeah, just resist damage. I think it's also again it helps you. It's like the armor we mentioned before. It helps you resist damage a little bit, which is always good, but it'll break quickly. Just move on. This is the hater raider, I think. Let me just double check that. Yes, so this will just make the next person they see, whoever you apply this to, the next person they see, they'll attack. Which could be really useful in like a building. However, I don't find them to be as useful as the other kinds of hypnotizers. And generally, it's a bit more of a niche item. I think it's going to go B tier. I think it's good. You can use this strategically. You can start a fight with it. You can end up killing some people or reducing their damage. But overall, it's kind of a meh item. It's mediocre. So moving on, we got the hire voucher, which you could just hire someone basically for free with it. Kind of like the item voucher for stores, but I think the item voucher from stores is a lot better than this. I think the hire voucher here's like I mentioned before with the friend phone, NPCs really aren't that good in this game. They're not really worth having. They're just too unpredictable. They do stupid stuff. They get themselves killed pointlessly. They soak up damage that you know you were meant to damage is meant to be done to enemies. They soak up because they get in your way. Generally, they're not worth it. I guess if you have it, you might as well use it. But I think it's going to be D tier. I don't find myself ever really like using this. I usually just sell them. I don't think NPCs are really worth hiring. So next up is the hologram. This thing's useless. It doesn't really do anything. It just sits there. It's not worth having. Let me just double check, make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, they NPCs attack it on site, but like, who really cares? They're not worth using. Just sell them. Just get rid of them. Hot Food. Hot Food, I think, is going to go in kind of the same. I, I think it's going to go in the same tier as these other healing items because, like we mentioned before with FUD, FUD is not really worth keeping most of the time. It's not worth stockpiling. You kind of just need to just get rid of the item slot, or it'll just heal you when you're like a little bit low, but not super low. And but if you're getting hot FUD, you got to stockpile it for the park levels, then use the grill, and it's a limited resource that it's like you can't really refill it. Overall, I don't think FUD is just worth. It's not worth the hassle. Like this will heal you for 15. This will heal you for 5. But it's just not worth. It's not worth it. Just use other healing items. There's better. There's beer. There's cheeseburgers, bananas. Those are the ones you want to stockpile. FUD and hot FUD are just not worth it. It's not worth your time. Just eat them or sell them. So next, we got the two hypnotizers here. Let me just figure out which one is which one is which. So this is the hypnotizer Mark 1, which makes them friendly. Rather, this one makes you aligned. Now, making people friendly like isn't really worth it. I'm gonna throw it in D tier. I'm gonna throw this one in D tier, but this one is gonna go in A tier. Having people aligned with you is really helpful because they will defend you. They'll attack NPCs who attack you. If you need to neutralize someone, you can ask them to leave town, or you can ask someone for like the key. Like if you have a shopkeeper, you can ask them for the key and get the item you need. Having people aligned with you is really helpful. Having people just like you is not super useful. There's kind of no reason to ever use this unless you're going for an election victory, which again, there's other ways to get people to like you other than with this, but it can be useful. But generally, it's not. This is almost always useful. These are amazing if you can get these. The Hypnotizer Mark II. These are like an A tier item, almost S. I'm not gonna put them in S just because they're not super common. But yeah, this is an incredible item. This will basically just a free, pass on your objectives you're trying to complete. So the Identify one, I'm gonna put this one also um, in A tier. Identify one is not super common, but it's so useful that if you use it, you should like if you have it, you should use it like right away because syringes are really good in this game. Like a lot of the syringes are useful for like especially the positive ones, like the invisibility or the strength or the invincibility ones are really useful. They're also like some of these items in this A tier or S tier, like they're basically just like free, like either a free win for the whole run or just a free like pass on the level or the objective you're trying to complete. And Drugalog, this will basically save you if you can get these and then clone them. This will save you a trait slot that you don't have to have for Drugalog. And Drugalug on its own is already like an amazing trait to have. So this is basically like free Drugalug or like temporary Drugalug. So this item's really good. Definitely use this. Definitely get this if you can, and use it if you can. Clone it if you can. I guess also like the higher up you go in this list is kind of like the more valuable something is to clone, or to keep, or to buy. So yeah, identify ones are really good because syringes can just be really good in this game. Definitely use this. So these are I'll do these three in a row. Let me find the kill weapons. So this is the kill immunizer, which gives you ammo on kill. So this could be really, really useful actually. The thing is though, is like ammo is already pretty common in this game. Like you can buy it from the ammo refill, or NPCs drop it. You could buy it from shops. But still, this will save you money if you have it. So it's useful to have. I almost always keep it, but it's not like gonna win you the game or anything. I'll put it in B tier. I respect it. I like it. But it's not incredible. I think almost all of these are gonna go. Maybe I'll put the health. This one gives you health on kill. This one gives you money on kill, which is less useful just because money in this game is not super amazing. Like it'll help you buy things you need, but usually money is not the deciding factor in whether you win a run or lose a run, or win a fight or lose a fight. Usually stuff like health and ammo is more important than money. So while this one's still useful, um, especially if you want extra money to like swap out traits or upgrade traits, it's useful to have, and especially if you're going to be killing a lot of people. If you're playing a character that you're killing a lot of people, these are all really good. But generally, I think this one's a little bit worse than these. So this one's the kill thrower. Let me just double check that. Is the kill thrower, which makes objects you throw deal 100 damage. So that's things like I guess rocks and uh, maybe even banana peels, or just I guess just anything you throw, which it is good, but there's many ways to deal damage in this game, and this thing's kind of rare. I don't find it to be super useful. I don't really ever use this thing. I'm gonna throw it in C tier. Again, it's not useless, but like just why bother? I don't know. The knife. So I think we're getting into a lot of the melee items. A lot of them, yeah, a lot of the melee items are down in the lower half of the list. So the knife. So I put the bat in B tier just because I think a lot of the melee items are going to be higher up, even though the melee items themselves aren't anything special. They're just so common and they're so helpful and they're so universal. You're going to be using melee items like so much of the time. Like it's just they're like you're just always going to have melee items and you're always going to need them. So they're pretty much all going to be like either like B tier and above. I think the knife is going to go in there too. A lot of the other ones too. We'll get to them eventually, but yeah. Landmines. I don't find landmines to be that useful. I'm going to throw them in C tier. They can be useful if you got to take out like a crowd of enemy. They're kind of like almost like grenades, but a bit more direct because you got to just throw them at people. They're an explosion. They will break open walls and kill people, and they're useful. But I think grenades are generally better and a bit cheaper and more abundant too. So I think I'll throw these in C tier. Leaf blower is F tier. I hate this thing. There's just kind of no reason. All it does is just push people around, but that doesn't solve any problems. You generally in this game, you can't really avoid problems for too long. You got to end up just killing people, or or just leaving the level, or just find another way to deal with people. Just pushing them around isn't super good. I think so. Next is lockpick. I think lockpick. Again, there's so many ways to open doors in this game. Like there's you can get keys pretty easily. There is things like the crowbar. I do think the lockpick's a bit better than the crowbar, especially if you're playing more of a stealthy character. The lockpick can be really useful. But I generally don't find the lockpick to be like a super like I never find myself like needing a lockpick all the time. Like they're good to have as a backup item or like a utility. But I don't really feel like I ever need them to complete a run. There's never a time where I really need a lockpick. So I think for that reason, like they're definitely good and they'll open doors for you, but I think they're going to be B tier. I don't think they're incredible. Next is the machine gun. So here's the thing with the guns. I'm gonna have to find a spot to put these. I think the machine gun is gonna go. I think it's gonna go in S tier, just because you're gonna kind of need it in the later levels. Some of the guns, like the shotgun and the pistol, stop being super useful later in the later levels, like the Mayor's Village and Uptown and Downtown. And that's where a lot of NPCs, like the mobsters and the police, will have these. And they're not super expensive to refill. They do a lot of damage. They shoot really quickly. And so yeah, I think this overall gesture is going to be like one of those kind of like must-have weapons that you're going to need, especially in the later floors. Next up is melee durability spray. This thing's really good, but melee items generally break really quickly anyway. So generally you're just going to be churning through melee weapons, and melee weapons are already pretty common in this game. So it kind of falls into like the armor durability spray. However, I think the melee durability spray is a little bit better. Like by like I think one tier. I think it's one tier better. I think that's a good spot to put it. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that because it will help you, especially if you put on like a sledgehammer or an axe. But yeah, it'll help you, but it's not gonna make or break your run. This is the memory wiper, which will just reset the someone's memory to what they had in the beginning of the floor, which is not it's really not useful. It's not super useful. I'm gonna put it in C tier because it has its uses, especially if you're playing an election character. But generally, if someone is super hostile to you, you can just kind of like just kill them, or just ignore them. You generally, if you're playing a damage character, one that you're just going for kills, you don't really need to use this ever. There's no point. And if you're going for an election character, you can always just eliminate them, or just play better so that they're not mad at you to begin with. They have their use, but I don't. I generally end up just selling this thing anyway. It's gonna be. I think it's gonna say a C tier. So mini fridge is gonna be S tier. This thing's amazing. I mean, health items are obviously always amazing in this game. You're always gonna need healing items, and it just increases the effectiveness of your healing items. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. It's an S tier. If you have this thing, it's well worth the inventory slot. Some people might say it's not worth it because it takes up an inventory slot, but I think it's well worth it if it makes your healing items heal more. It's always good. Easy S tier for me. Next up is Molotov cocktails, which are really good, but they it kind of gets overshadowed by the flamethrower. However, I think these are a little bit more common. They're still really good because fire is just so good in this game. I'm gonna put these in B tier. I think they're not quite A. I just because they're throwable, they can be avoided, and the flamethrower is so much better than this thing that if you have a flamethrower, they're kind of just pointless. But they're still really good. They're still Molotovs. I think they're B tier. Next up is the monkey barrel. I hate this thing. This thing's terrible. Just put it in F tier. The monkey, so when you put it down, it spawns gorillas, but the gorillas are hostile to you, and they'll just run in random directions. So you can't even like put them in a building, and they'll just like attack people in the building. Like they'll just run around randomly. Some of them will run in the building, some of them will run out. They'll attack you, and it's just really an unpredictable and chaotic item, which is just not. It's just not worth it. There's kind of just no reason to use this thing. Just sell it. You probably end up just taking damage from using it. So next up is the muscly pill, which will just make you do more damage, I think, from melee attacks. Yeah, more melee damage for 30 seconds, which again is good, but these things aren't super common. And yeah, you still have firearms and other stuff. If you're playing a melee character, this thing's really good, but again, they're not super common. They're expensive to clone. They're definitely good to have, but I wouldn't go out of my way to get them. I think melee attacks are also already do enough damage as they are. They kind of falls into the same categories like the critter upper, where it'll help, but ultimately like it's not going to win you a fight or win you a run. Next up is the Necromium book. I don't actually remember the name of this thing, Necromicon, but it yeah spawns zombies that are allied to you. This thing is just not. Again, it falls into the same thing with NPCs not being super useful, and they're zombies. They're not super great alone, and it's not always a graveyard on every level. So this thing's pretty bad. It can be useful. I generally end up selling it. I think it's going to be a D tier. I almost never use this thing. Oil canister is going to be an F tier. Again, like this is probably one of the worst fire items. You kind of need a lighter to use it, and you can only lay it in a certain spot, and it's just not worth that. It's not worth using. There's better fire. There's Molotovs and flamethrowers. The flamethrower is so good, it just kind of overshadows all the fire items. This thing's just not worth having, or not worth using. Paralyzer trap, I think is going to go. Um, I think it's going to go in C tier along with the bear trap. It's not good because the enemies can still attack you while they're in it. They'll get paralyzed and they can't move. but they can still attack you. So you haven't really solved the problem. You kind of just stop them from moving, but you still end up probably taking damage, especially if you're going to go in for a melee attack with this thing. And if you're going to end up having to fight them anyway, you might as well just not even paralyze them. They're not even worth using. But they can save you in a pinch if you're running. So I guess they're going to go in the same tier as the bear trap. The pistol. This might be a controversial opinion, but I'm going to put the pistol in S tier, even though it's not. Um, Even though it's probably the weakest firearm, like of the regular bullet type weapons, just because it's so common, especially in the early floors, if you have a pistol, it's really good. All the guns are really good, but the pistol especially, it's just so abundant, and it holds a good amount of ammo too. It holds 30 rounds just by itself, even without the ammo stock. That it's just such a like a common versatile weapon that you pretty much always have ammo for it, and it'll always do a decent amount of damage too, even on the later floors. It's always worth having. I think it's an S tier. Next up is the baton. I think the baton's going to go in B tier along with these other melee items. It's overall just really good. It's pretty much just a reskin bat. Overall, it's just a solid melee weapon. Portable. This is the portable Celomatic. We're not going to rank that because it's exclusive to the shopkeeper. But next up is the quick escape teleport. I'm going to put this in A tier. I think this is a really good item. It's basically you'll get 3 of them at a time. Like if you get them from like a mission, and they'll basically save you. It basically gives you 3 get out of jail free attempts. And this is basically like it'll stop you. Like it can sometimes stop you from winning a fight if you're about to win a fight, but it also save you from losing a fight. And these things are relatively abundant that I think you'll have them a decent amount of the time. That I think these are worth keeping. Like always, they're just gonna save your life basically. Like there's not much to really say about them other than they'll just save you. Even if they stop you from winning a fight, you can always go back and win the fight later. This will just stop you from dying. I think they're an easy A tier. So next up is the Rage Potion, which I think kind of, let's see, Rage Poison. So you could probably just control an attack. So here's the thing: if you consume this item, this is really bad because you don't have control over your character. But you could I don't know if you could put this in a fountain, or you could put this in an air vent. I don't know if you can, but you kind of just end up losing control of an NPC, which is not always good. Usually, you want to deal with NPCs in a controlled way, so they don't end up accidentally killing you. So I'm gonna put this thing in D tier. I think there's better ways to deal with NPCs. Overall, I also this thing's kind of rare too, so I'm gonna put it in D tier. So next up is the fire rate mod. This thing is decent. It's good. I don't think it's as good as the ammo stock, but it's still good. It's B tier. You should definitely use this if you have. You should pretty much use all of the gun attachments if you find them. But I think the accuracy mods, or not the fire rate mods, probably on the same tier as accuracy. It's decent, but you don't always need it, especially guns like the Uzi already shoot so fast that it's kind of redundant, but it's still worth having. Next up is Resurrection Shampoo. So this will last for an entire floor, and it'll resurrect you once if you have it, I think. I don't know if it lasts for an entire floor. Resurrection. Let's see. So yeah, it'll just last until you take one. Until you take your first death. First death. Um, I'm gonna throw this in A tier. I think Resurrection is obviously an amazing ability, but I think the fact that this doesn't wear off until you die is really good. Like if it was on a time limit, it'd probably be a B tier, just because of how rare it is. It is extremely rare, but I think because it will just last, you can just use it and it'll just last. That makes it amazing because it won't take up an inventory slot, and it'll basically just be a free get out of jail free card. It's not S because of how rare it is, probably and how expensive it is, but it's an easy A tier. You also need it for one of the achievements in the game too. The revolver, I think the revolver, I really like the revolver. I like its idea, but I think it's easily the worst weapon, like the worst gun in the game because of how slow it shoots. There's a delay when you shoot it, and it shoots pretty slow compared to the other guns. And it does a lot of damage, but generally speaking, the time to kill on this thing is pretty slow. So overall, it's not worth it. And Streets of Rogue's a very fast-paced game, so generally you need things shooting faster. I would rather take less damage that shoots faster, like the Uzi or the pistol, than this thing. But again, it's still a gun. It's still good. It's still worth having. But I think it's probably the weakest gun on the list. Next up is the rocket launcher. This one's easy S tier. I think anyone who's used the rocket launcher before knows just how amazing this thing is. It's not super expensive to restock um, at a loadout-o-matic. It'll blow through walls. It'll blow up NPCs. It shoots quickly, especially if you turn off auto aim with this thing. You can just shoot it wherever. Like, it'll destroy basically any wall or any item. It's once you get the rocket launcher, it's really hard to kind of fuck up with it. Like you have to really try to lose when you have the rocket launcher, especially if you can get a trait like Blast Survivor or Blast Master. Like the game just becomes easy once you get this rocket launcher. Amazing item. The rock. So unironically, the rock it seems like a really terrible item, but it seems like an F tier item, but it's actually kind of decent, especially for floor hazards, like when you have those lasers that blow up and you need to get past them. You could trip like lasers with this thing. I generally only have it for that purpose. I mean, with that being said, it's still kind of trash. I'll throw it in D tier. It's not F just because it does have a niche use of tripping floor hazards with it. But yeah. Besides that, I mean, you can do the same thing with banana peeler, just shooting at it with a gun. But yeah, it does have some use. Safe cracker. So the safe cracker sounds like a good item on paper, but it's really not because generally speaking, if you can get to a safe, you probably already have the combination to it, or you've already used the computer to open the safe anyway. The only reason that like this is on the thief character because the thief can bypass walls and then just crack the safe and leave. But most characters don't need to do that. Once you get to a safe, you probably already have an ability to open it. So I think it's kind of a redundant item for most characters. Which is why I'm gonna put it in C. It has a use, but like I don't really think it's that amazing. I'm almost even debating putting it in D tier, but I think it has enough of a use to keep it in C tier, but it's like a low C. It's like a C minus tier. Next up is a shotgun. I think I'm gonna put the shotgun in A tier. I think it's worse than these guns, but better than the revolver. Like it's not super strong and it doesn't hold a lot of ammo, but it's still a gun. It's still really good. It's still really good to have, especially like on the first two levels, like the slums and the industrial. If you can get this thing early, it'll basically just be a free walk to the park. So, and it's still useful on the later floors. Pretty much all the guns are still useful on the later floors. It just doesn't hold that much ammo. And the spread on it could be kind of hard at like medium ranges, but still A tier. It's still really good. Next up is the shrink pill, which the shapeshifter character is small and has the diminutive trait. But that's not really that useful. Like, what do you really use this thing for? I mean, I guess you could put it in an air vent and shrink uh, NPCs, but it's just not that useful because you're still gonna have to fight them anyway, even if they die when you walk over them or hit them. It still doesn't solve like it still doesn't really solve that like your problem. I'm gonna put it in C tier. I usually just get rid of this thing when I get it. I understand it has uses, but generally I just don't think it's worth it. You're probably just better off selling it. Again, then there's the shrink gun, which I think is better than the shrink pill, which is why I'm probably gonna put it in B tier because it can get you some kills, but it's still like not an amazing gun. You're probably better off just hitting or shooting NPCs before you shrink them, but it has its uses. I respect it. I'll leave it in B tier. Ninja stars are good. Ninja stars are actually really good. They're pretty abundant. You get a lot of them. You can destroy like barrels and floor hazards with them. You can throw them at people, but you can run out of them quickly if you're not careful with them. I'm gonna put them in B tier. I really like them, but I don't think they're quite an A. I think they're maybe like upper B tier. Silencer is kind of pointless. There's kind of no reason to have this. Like, there's no reason. Again, like silent, like being quiet in this game is just not really like useful for any reason. Kind of just you're not really accomplishing anything with the silencer, but like there's also no reason not really to use it. It doesn't really affect anything. I don't think it really reduces your damage. Let me take a look. Yeah, it doesn't really like affect anything. It's also not really like useful. I'll put it in C just because it's kind of a neutral item. Like you just don't really ever need to be silent in this game for most things. But it also doesn't hurt you. So I guess you could just use it and it won't really matter. Slave helmet remover is kind of pointless. I mean, it's not that hard to get slaves. You could either just kill the slave masters or buy them. They're not that expensive, and just freeing one slave is not really useful. This thing's just not really ever useful to have or use. Just sell it. Sledgehammer is going to be A tier. It's not S because, like we talked about before, it's too rare to really justify putting it in S, and you can also use it like it's not really that useful. You either kind of have to because of its durability is again like all the melee weapons don't have a lot of durability in this game. You're gonna have to pick and choose whether to break walls with it or fight with it. Doing one will make it so you can do less of the other. So I think the axe kind of outclasses it in terms of PvP because or not PvP, just fighting NPCs because it's only going to be used for fighting and it's more abundant. Meanwhile, the sledgehammer is rarer, so you're going to use it less, and you might use it on walls, and it'll do more damage, sure, but I think it's overall a little bit worse than the axe. Like a little bit like a tier worse, but still really good. Sledgehammer is still amazing. The sugar is an okay item. I mean, I think you can buy this from drug dealers, and it makes you fast, but speed is not like running super fast is not always like an amazing kind of trait in this game. I'm debating between C and B. I think this is going to be probably B tier. I mean, it does its job. It's useful, but I don't really go out on my way to get it. Um, just kind of is what it is. I think the comedian starts with this and it's useful, but overall, it's kind of a whatever item. The sword, I think, is going to go in probably A tier. I think it's a little bit less common than the axe. I feel like, but it's still really good. Yeah, it's kind of like on the same tier. I think it does the same amount of damage as the axe, but it's a little bit less common. So I'm gonna put it in A. Except, I think this is supposed to represent like all syringes. Now, syringes, I guess it's kind of unfair to rank them all as one thing, but they're either all really good or they're either really good or really bad. Most of the time you're going to be putting them in air vents, or if you have drug lug can really help you. I think drug lug is one of the best traits in the game. I think overall, like it's kind of a mixed bag. So I guess if we're just ranking syringes, like they're either going to be S or like F. So I think we're just gonna split. I think I'm just gonna put syringes in B. I think that's probably a good middle ground for them. So I think tranquilizer and taser are character specific, so we're gonna skip them. The time bomb is not an amazing item just because it takes too long to work, and this is a very fast-paced game. But it's also not useless either. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Like it does its job and it can blow up, you know, walls and NPCs. But overall, I think grenades outclass them by a lot. But they can still be useful if you know how to use them. The translator is really just kind of a useless item. I'm not gonna say it's F because it has a use, but I'm gonna put it in D tier just because you almost never need to use it to like talk to gorillas or something. You just generally never need it. However, it does have a use if you do want to talk to gorillas, like if you want to hire one, or in like the uptown floors where you can like go to the shop with the gorilla. It can be useful, but overall you almost never need it. I'll just leave it in D tier. The cop phone is decent. Some floors you can't use this on because it just won't let you. There's no cops. But if there is, it can be really useful. It's not the only way to deal with NPCs, but it has its use. I'm gonna throw it in B tier. The wall bypasser, I'm gonna actually throw this in A tier. So walls and pretty much anything that can take down a wall in this game is really good. Like the sledgehammer or the rocket launcher or the grenade or the giganticizer or the wall bypasser. Like getting into buildings and out of buildings or getting into places is just really useful in this game. Especially like a character like the thief starts with this, or you could find them. They're not super rare. They're overall just really useful to have just in your hotbar, ready to use them if you need to. I think they're an A tier. Warp grenades can be useful. They're kind of like a quick escape teleport, but a little bit different. You can either warp yourself with them or you can warp NPCs away from you. However, I don't always find them that amazing. So I think they're gonna go B tier. I think that's a good spot to put them. They have their utility, but overall, I find sometimes it can be a waste of a slot. The water cannon is good if you have like Drugolug, but if you don't, you're kind of gambling, and overall, like you can end up running through like status effect items with this thing. It can be really good though, but it's kind of a toss up. It really depends. It's going to be probably another B tier item. It's really kind of a toss up of what you have in your inventory. Um, like how many status effect items that you have, but it can be really good. Whiskey is probably also going to be B tier. It heals for 15, but it's more expensive than the beer, but it heals for more, and it's pretty abundant. Bartenders sell it. It can I think sometimes show up very rarely in trash cans, but overall they're a decent item. I respect it, but they're not. I don't think they're as good as the beer, just because they're more rare and more expensive. Window cutters are really good. So items like the rocket launcher or the grenade can blow up windows, but you're not always going to have these. You're not always going to want to waste them on a window. So window cutters, I think, are also going to be an A tier. Like you could just get straight through a wall if you need to, and just get right into an objective. Um, like they're always handy to have. I always find them to be very useful. Next is the wrench. I think I'm also going to throw the wrench in B tier. Um, its utility of like being able to manipulate like generators and stuff is not really that useful. Generators can be blown up, with just your fists. They're also just kind of a basic melee weapon. They're not super special. They kind of just sit among the other melee weapons. I feel like they could be occasionally useful, but probably a little bit worse than the crowbar, but still like kind of on the similar tier. And I think that's it for all of the rest of these items are all character exclusive, um, or only part of once you complete the big quests. So let me know what you guys think of this item tier list in the comments. Let me know what tier lists you want to see in the future, or what other Streets of Rogue content or what other content in general you want to see. Let me know what you agree with, disagree with, and thank you for watching. Bye.